Hey, what's going on, craft beer professionals? My name is Chris Klein with Cascade Floors Inc., and we are proud members and sponsors of the CBP. Some of you know me, but for those who don't, I look forward to meeting you someday. If you run a brewery or a food production facility, you know your floors take a serious beating every single day. Well, that's where we come in. Cascade Floors has been in business for over 55 years. We bring over 200 years of combined experience to your job site every day. We never outsource labor. Our crews are full-time trained professionals. We have over 4.5 million square feet installed at over 480 breweries in 34 states and 3 countries. Those floors take a serious beating every day. Our floors are designed to handle tough conditions and withstand chemicals and hot water washdowns and serious heavy equipment use. Our floors are 100% non-pro-rated, 5-year warranty against debonding. If you're planning a new building, expanding, or just tired of patching those crappy floors, hit me up. We'd love to work with you.
Hey, everybody. I'm assuming we're live.
Do it.
Sweet. We'll get into intros of the two of us in a second, but myself, Aaron, and Alex, we are here on behalf of NextGlass, who also is under the Ollie and Ekos, product names, to talk about different beverage options. So what we're talking on today is just from Brewhouse to Beverage House, scaling into new product categories and other products that you guys may be able to get into, or things of that nature. The way that the beverage landscape is these days, especially just trying to open yourself up to options beyond beer, is something that I think more and more people should look into on whether they can do that. So first things here is who is NextGlass, our parent company. So NextGlass is legit the worldwide leader in bev tech. So obviously on the upper echelon, we have the Untapped app, which then filters down to you all in the Untapped for Business, as well as data and insights, your digital menus, things like that, the insights of being able to see what your drinkers are drinking of your beverages, other people's, where they're drinking, all of that. Then we have some other products, Ollie, which is an ERP CRM software that tracks production. This fall, we recently acquired Ekos, which also is in the ERP CRM world. The difference there that we'll get into a little bit in this talk is Ekos is really more beverage agnostic, as we say, where you can be a brewery, distillery, winery, cidery, kombucha, just about any beverage you can think of, you can produce and track it in the ecosystem. And then there is also Osner, which is a direct consumer platform for memberships, sales of that nature. And then Hop Culture, which started as a magazine, is more like a website, and Beer Advocate, which is, again, another kind of OG way to rate, track your beers, talk to communities and things like that. So that's kind of the gist behind NextGlass and all of our platforms. Today's agenda, we will be talking about a slew of things. So when you are thinking of other beverages that you might be able to produce or even think about, we're going to go over these points here. So 1, the challenges facing breweries today. 2, options beyond beer. Then compliance, production and staffing, sales and distro, your brand extension, and then finally payments, knowing your why of why you should do this, and then lastly is your new reality. So those are the things we'll be going on today. A little background on myself and Alex here. So again, I am Aaron Keefner. So I was born and raised in the Chicagoland area. I'm actually now in Pittsburgh as of almost 2 years ago. So we moved out here. But I have spent the last 15 years in the brewing industry. Started out my career at Goose Island and worked there on the marketing side and then the operations side. Then moved over to Revolution Brewing, where I handled their specialty beer program. So the Deep Woods program, their small batch, and everything at the brew pub. And then moved over to Moore Brewing, where I was director of business operations, oversaw brewing operations, marketing, and sales there. And then finally came to work here as a solutions consultant for Next Glass, really doing the demoing of our products, Ollie, and now Ekos, some Osner and stuff like that. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And then I'll pass it on over to Alex.
Thanks, Aaron. Hey, everyone. My name is Alex Labonge. I'm also a solutions consultant with the producer sales team with Next Glass here. I've been with Next Glass for almost 10 years now in a variety of different capacities. The first few years, I focused primarily on the Untapped brand, working with Untapped for business, consumer trends. I've done a lot of work with our Insights products as well. And then for the past 4 or 5 years, really been working with the ERPs and product. And over the past 5 months, really getting up to speed and focusing very heavily with the Ekos product as well. While I haven't worked in a brewery myself, I think I have a very unique perspective to share here today, and that this has been my professional life. I've had thousands of conversations and product demos with bar, brewery, and restaurant owners all over the world, and I'm quite adept at crafting business solutions for those different producers. I'm based out of the Charlotte, North Carolina area. We live with my wife, Courtney, daughter, Adeline, who's 17 months, and then 2 dogs. So wanted to paint a quick picture of the industry and some of the challenges that we're facing here today. This is not earth-shattering. We've been living this for years now, but the craft beer industry of today does look vastly different than it did 5, 10, 15 years ago. Growth is flat, but that's okay. What we're seeing out there, breweries are closing, new ones are opening in their place. We've reached a much more mature market than we were 10 years ago. But this is also the case with bars and restaurants and other types of businesses, so there's nothing new or surprising here. We're seeing more and more breweries that are joining forces to realize the benefits of working together, whether that's smaller producers ordering together to cut back on shipping costs. You have some extra tank space, let's open up and do some co-packing for another brand. Let's join forces and use that distribution network together. We're seeing more and more of this today. This is very unique to the beer industry. Some other beverage categories, that is not going to be the case. We'll jump into that a little bit further as we go along. Our operational costs are rising for ingredients, packaging, and labor. Those vendor costs that went up during COVID never really seem to come back down. Everywhere we turn, there's new shipping fees and surcharges that don't really make sense. Tariffs, well, we'll leave that one where it is for today. Consumer habits are shifting. There's more non-beer options than ever and interest in that taproom experience. 10 years ago, having a great local craft beer might have been enough for your business, but today it isn't. Your customers want more. They're looking for a taproom experience. They're looking for a bite to eat, an activity, somewhere to bring their family. There's more going into it. And a big reason that we're having this chat is that the biggest trend that we're seeing with Ollie and Ekos partners is the diversification of what they're producing. That. Ultimately, the competition is fierce from other breweries and beverage categories, but there's a ton of opportunity for growth that's out there. If you're not safeguarding your business, somebody is safeguarding theirs, and they're going to capitalize on where you're not. So as we go along through this presentation, think to yourself, how can I set myself apart, and what steps can I take over the next 6, 12, and 18 months to be able to achieve this?
All right. So don't really have any idea if anyone is live on this, but if there are any people live, we just wanted to ask a few questions. If there's not, that's totally okay. We know that a lot of people watch these after the fact. So if there is anyone out there in the world, so we wanted to ask you today, are any of you already making anything other than beer? Feel free to comment in the chat. And if not, that's totally fine. And then the other questions are, what would you be interested in making if you are not currently making beer? And then finally is, what do you think there's a market for right now? Again, feel free to put these in the chat. If not, we'll kind of talk about that along the way anyway. So it's all good. So the big question is, what do I make outside of beer? What do I make next? So we have some ideas of kind of low friction things that can be produced, and then your higher friction things that are a little more difficult. So low friction, obviously a lot of people are already doing this. It's even kind of categorized with beer when it comes to taxation and stuff like that, is hard seltzers, and then RTD malt beverages. So these are low friction things because they can utilize your already existing fermentation tanks, bright tanks, can lines. So very similar process along the way that doesn't really negate new equipment, which we'll get more into that as well. And then there's hop water. Hop water is kind of a funny one too, because depending on your process of creating a hop water, it can actually have equipment that would be needed with it. But if you're doing kind of, more like a hop water, like seltzer or things like that, it is an easier process. Again, if you're doing a straight up hop water, anything that doesn't have carbonation, that's where it gets, different. You do need processing equipment just so you can have, the sanitation and really make sure that what you are bringing to a consumer is safe for them, and doesn't have the possibility of picking up contaminants and stuff like that. So I guess in a way, hop water could kind of go either way on that. High friction would be the things that would need new equipment or things like that. So distilled RTDs, if you're doing high proof mixing, usually you want a different tank for that, or a still if you are doing, the distillation process. There are ways, which we'll also talk about, of kind of handling RTDs that can negate some of that equipment and stuff like that. And then cider is another one that kind of, can equate for some new equipment that you need depending on the processing that you're doing. Also, space kind of goes into all of these. If you're aging things in barrels and stuff like that, that obviously can play a factor in what you are looking to do. Also the volume and stuff like that. And then we have a few kind of like examples here of, kind of I won't go through all of these, your beverage types, your margin potentials, primary cost drivers, and then even the tax complexity, things you might be looking at as far as that. One that we don't have listed here that I think this is highly dependent on the person and kind of like where you're at. I toyed back and forth on like having something like coffee on this, because I do think that coffee is potentially an option that can be added in. That's obviously a completely different process and absolutely requires equipment. I know a few people that have gotten into the coffee space themselves. And so that's really just a matter of like, where does coffee live on your spectrum? Are you a big coffee person that is interested in that beverage? And do you want to explore that more? So while we didn't really list it on today's deck, that, there are other things like that that are obviously options. And as you'll see in this, a lot of this is really dependent on kind of like your location and what, you can do legally and stuff like that, which we'll go through. All right. On that note, one of the biggest things is going to be compliance. So depending on the avenue you're going for other beverages, this is, a big thing of like, does the state that you're in or where you are require separate licensing needs? So again, I originally came from Illinois, where brewstilleries are a thing. You can hold a brewery and a distilling license. Obviously, they have to be separate, but again, depending on where you are located, some states do not allow this on the same, like you have to be a separate business entity and things like that. So that's a big question, is where you are located. Can you legally even produce a beverage of that nature? Are there production limitations based on those license types? So a lot of times there are different classes, or there are limitations in, if you take on this, you can only make a certain amount of that. So that is another thing that definitely needs to be looked into. And then obviously the tax responsibilities, are there specific taxes that pertain to different forms of alcohol in your state or in your county? Again, depending on where you are, that is a big thing there. Wine is taxed along different levels of not only alcohol, but also carbonation. And so really doing your research on that is important. And then at the bottom here, I say, if you are unsure, all of you should have a state brewers guild. There's also the BA and other resources that can be used. Reach out to somebody if you are unsure. Somebody along the way will have the knowledge and information, or be able to point you in the right direction, so that you can find out the avenues that you need based on the area that you're in and what you need to produce and all of that. So that's a big one there. All right, then production and staffing needs. So again, based on what you are producing, what additional equipment do you require? So again, that is a big factor of, I'll use distilled spirits as a big example. This really can vary a lot. So what is gaining more and more and more popularity lately is bulk spirit buying, and then more of a blending. So we talk to more and more distilleries lately than ever, and a lot of them are in fact buying in bulk spirits. So just because you say, hey, we're thinking of doing distilled spirits, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to purchase a still. Obviously, to make things more unique and stuff like that, and really have your own kind of product, doing the full process would be really great. Full mash cook, distillation, packaging, storage, packaging. But that obviously gets really expensive. So there are options to buy bulk, already distilled, grain neutral spirits, things of that nature, finished products of whiskey. Maybe you bring that in and further age that in barrels that you have to give it kind of an additional character. Maybe you're then just using that in blending to then create ready to drink cocktails. I feel like those are gaining in popularity. I feel like every distillery that I go to lately has, whiskeys of different types, but then a lot of them now have already bottled old fashions that they blend up. It's just a nice way for people that don't kind of want to do their own mixing of, cocktails and things of that nature, to have it ready there, add ice or add maybe something to kind of make it a little more different. And really from a production standpoint, that is the same. It's, obviously there has to be, knowledge and education behind, blending and creating that end product. But especially if you already have, packaging options like, a canning line or a bottling line or something along that, it's very possible that getting into a product of that nature is more of a potential for you. Then on the staffing side, your staff that's on hand, are they able to take on this production as well? Or would you require new or additional personnel? So that's, again, kind of like a level of your team and their knowledge and what they're interested in doing and things like that. And then along with that, kind of piggybacks off compensation. I don't like to talk about money really, but there is the process of, or the thought of, are these new beverages that you're getting into, filling a void, a dip in sales, or kind of hours that your team is being cut back on? Can this get them back to a level of hours that, puts them in a better space, puts you guys in a better space based on what you're producing, and stuff like that. So, or will this already, are they already going full tilt in their hours? And then would that require additional staff to kind of handle that? So, just something to think about there. Training. Will this require new training or additional training? And I put here like for both production and front of house staff, because, obviously production staff is going to need to have the knowledge and training to create these products. But then on the flip side, your front of house staff should absolutely have the knowledge of the products that you are producing. They are your biggest driver in sales. So the more that they can talk to consumers about the products that you're creating and selling to those people, the better. So the training and that for both back of house and front of house is very important. And then finally, and this is where kind of biased Alex and I get into ourselves, is the software. Being able to track all your production and everything from inventory to the actual production to the taxing, the sale reporting. I feel like today more than ever, it's important to have tools to do that. Spreadsheets can work, but especially if you're getting into additional beverage types, it gets pretty messy, between your inventory for, brewery and other types of beverages, and then the production for that. And again, this is where we're going to kind of, bring in our own thing here, especially on the Ekos side of the system. Ekos is now, like I said earlier, beverage agnostic. It can track everything and anything. It can track it all into one if legally you can do that. And you're reporting in one system. If you need separation of accounting and stuff like that, it can do it with, multiple. So again, you're just at least bringing that into one system or one platform. So just something to think about. And really just the end goal is making your life easier and the less stress on you, I can say from experience, is always beneficial and needed. All right, next, sales channels and distribution. So where are you planning for sales of this? There's always the, everyone can say, ooh, I really want to make this product. But a big question as well is do you have a plan for selling it? Are you just looking to sell this small amount in your own tap room or restaurant? Are you looking to distribute this? Would you be able to self-distribute it? Would you have to go through distributors, or would you just decide to go through distributors because that is potentially an easier option for you? So those are all things to absolutely think of. The areas of distribution. So if you are trying to sell outside of your own tap room, where are the areas that you see demand for these additional beverages and things like that? Where are people maybe not selling those as much? So absolutely things to think about. And then your go-to-market plan. Even if it's just being sold out of your tap room direct to consumers, you need to have a market launch plan. You need to have kind of education and think about, table toppers and things of that, so that when you launch this to people, they know about it and it's in their face. People are not going to ask questions. They don't as much as we wish that they did. So putting things right out into the open in their face as much as possible is going to get your product out there. I'd say it at the bottom, having a plan for how and where to sell products is probably the most important. So.
Awesome. My turn to jump in here. So let's start talking a little bit about the brand extension test. We've already discussed several logistics about starting new lines of beverages, but there's another main point that we need to nail. What are we going to call it? So do we keep using the same existing brand, or do we pivot to something more new and unique? Is it as simple as changing the name from Alex's Brewery to Alex's Beverages? In some cases, yes, that might work well. In others, that might be the product might be drastically different, and we don't want to confuse or mislead our customers. Ask yourself, does this make sense under your current logo? And consider the parent strategy. If your brand is wild and sour, a kombucha or a hard cider edition might fit really well. If I'm pivoting to coffee beverages or energy drinks, maybe a new brand makes more sense. It can be related, but it isn't the same product. On the other side of things, there's also the stealth strategy to consider. Do I launch this product with brand new information as a new brand? Can this take more work? Potentially, yeah. We may need to hire new artists for logos, package design, extra paperwork, compliance, and whatnot. But if I make an energy drink, maybe we do want to consider launching under a separate brand name so that it doesn't cheapen your craft beer reputation you've worked so hard on. Also, it will be expensive to do so, but there is an option to rebrand down the road as well. There is a way to be able to pivot. Wanted to work this slide in here very quickly on payments. I think this is really important to share and something we're very, very excited here with Next Class. No matter what type of product we're selling, we need to sell it to keep our business running. And half of the sale is collecting the payment. Traditionally, when using ERP systems, you had to process payments through your accounting software or export to an external payments provider or something else not in the system. So we're excited to introduce PaySmart, which is going to be available in both Ekos and Ollie. It's a method where you can accept ACH payments directly in the ERP system for your customers. ACH payments right now, credit cards are going to be launching soon. Right now, it is only available in the US, but we do plan to go internationally. Don't worry, you still will be able to create unlimited number of invoices in both Ollie and Ekos, and you'll only be charged for the ones that you process through PaySmart, and it'll have a customized rate designed to match your business and invoicing needs. So we just want to really make this as seamless as possible to collect those different payments directly in the ERP systems of Ollie and Ekos. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time discussing the why, or the mental side of expanding beverage production. If you haven't viewed the Simon Sinek TED Talk, Start With Why, I highly recommend it. Sinek's central framework is what he calls the golden circle, the 3 concentric rings labeled why, how, and what from the inside out. Most organizations communicate from the outside in. Here's what we do, here's how we do it. But the most inspiring leaders and organizations do the opposite. They start with why. When we're talking about what, every organization knows what they do. These are the products or services that they sell. How, some know how they do it. They're differentiating processes or value propositions. But why? Very few can clearly articulate the why. Why do they do it? Not profit, that's the result, but the purpose. What's the belief, the cause that the organization exists? Sinek connects the golden circle to brain structure. The what speaks to the neocortex, the rational and the analytical part of the brain. But the why speaks to the limbic system, the part that's responsible for emotion, trust, and decision-making. That's why the phrase, "it just felt right," is so common in the human experience. We make gut decisions and then rationalize them after the fact. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The talk ends with a call to action. If you're a leader, a business, or anyone trying to inspire others, start by getting crystal clear on why you exist and communicate that first. The what and the how will follow naturally, and the people you attract will be far more loyal and motivated than any marketing campaign could produce. Saltwater Brewery down in Florida has a great example of their why, and I wanted to share this. And on the next slide, I'll give a couple other options as well. Saltwater Brewery's why is they're a group of surfers, fishermen, and beach lovers whose roots and values spur from a lifestyle that revolves around the ocean. Our goal is to maintain the world's greatest wonder and help by giving back to the ocean through charities. Our passion for beer is the way that we can ensure that we work our hardest to make a product that will suit your palate, while still pursuing our dreams on and in the ocean. So the making of the beer is what's happening, but they're doing all of this because of their love of the ocean and their lifestyle giving them the purpose. The trap that many breweries fall into is when I decide to make a hard seltzer, an RTD, canned cocktail, NA beverage, that instinct usually is to lead with what? Now we make hard kombucha, or try our new line of sparkling waters. That's the outside in thinking, and it often can confuse or alienate our customers because we thought you guys were a beer brand. Before launching any new product, a brewery must excavate its why. And here are just a couple examples of what that why might look like, but there are many, many others, and everyone's can be different. We exist to bring people together around local ingredients and local community. We believe that craft means obsessing over quality in everything we make, not just our beer. We're here to give adventurous drinkers something worth talking about. Spend time to understand your why, and it'll pay dividends for your business moving forward. A little bit further on this. So here's a case study I think is very powerful in terms of interruptions in your life. Prisma Guitars offers a unique insight into this eruption and can be a catalyst for your purpose. The founder, Nick Profard, was a dedicated skater who was sidelined for an extended period of time. He was a musician and a skater, so this forced pause allowed him to combine some of his other passions. Prisma guitars are made out of recycled skateboards. They don't do it for the sake of the environment for doing green, it's for the story. Each guitar has between 4 and 50 recycled decks, and while making them, Nick often found things like blood, chips, pressure cracks from the previous skater's life, things that gave us the character and the perspective of what we're doing. Finding your purpose isn't always a straight line, similar to producing new beverages. Inspiration and motivation on what new to make can come from anywhere, sometimes when you're least expecting it. Also, you don't have to find a brand new purpose. It can be the intersection of two things that you already like to do. And then one last note here about Nick and Prisma Guitars is that he was largely self-taught from YouTube and trial and error. You don't need permission or a formal degree to begin your purpose. Curiosity is a much more powerful engine than the credentials. I put this slide together to help illustrate some of the similarities between industries and switching products. It might seem like a little bit of a stretch immediately comparing skateboards and beverages, but I think the theme really remains the same. In Prisma's example, we went from writing boards to building guitars, and the result there was a resilient, unique brand. In the brewery world, we go from brewing to crafting liquid culture. And ultimately, what does that result in? A diversified, weatherproof portfolio. That underlying logic between both here, we're going from moving from a single activity to a broader craft while leveraging existing tools to serve a new audience. And we're finding our purpose in the process, not just the product that we're making. So wrapping all of this up, let's take a look at what is your new reality. It's not the same for everybody. It might be vastly different for 6, 12, 18 months. And these are just a few different options of what success could look like for your business. Our evolution isn't just a product launch. It's a structural upgrade to the business model. Success can look like maximizing asset utilization. We're no longer having dead time in our tanks. We're constantly on top of production and maximizing the equipment that we have. De-risked revenue. We are no longer 100% dependent on that craft beer consumer. We now own a share of that sober curious cocktail or functional movements that are growing quickly. We're shifting to an all-day brand, moving out of the way from just an afternoon or evening companion. In the morning, maybe we're reaching for that nitro cold brew. The afternoon, a functional hop water will do it. And at night, we'll finish our day with that craft beer and premium RTD. 3 different possibilities instead of just that one, unlocking all those different beverage verticals that are there. That's really all that Aaron and I had for y'all here today. We'll stick on for a few minutes for if you have any different questions in the chat. Please feel free to get in contact with us directly, Alex or Aaron at nextglass.co. Also, www.nextglass.co has links to all the different brands. You can also schedule product demos on getollie.com or getekos.com. Happy to talk about all of this much further with you. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll hang out for a couple more minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Sweet. Probably not. People don't like to engage as much.
No worries. Drop a comment on the YouTube channel, send me an email. It'll be great.
Yeah, I think we're good. So.
All right, I think we're good to go, everybody. So we're going to log off from here. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Cheers.
Have a good one. See you all at CBC.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this session, we'd love to see you in real life. We host in-person workshops across the country for craft beer professionals just like you that are held in some of the most exciting beer destinations around. These immersive events are designed to help you grow and connect with others. You'll meet peers from across the country and leave with actionable strategies for success. Connection has never been more important, and you can learn more at cbpconnects.com. Cheers. See you there.